once again to the Shooting Left of Center podcast. I am the Yankee Marshal, and once again I am joined by gun websites and never enough ammo. Tonight's topics are going to be a little varying. We're going to answer a lot of viewer questions and cover a lot of topics viewers wanted to hear about. So first here I'm going to let G-Webs and Matt introduce themselves, and we will get started here.
All right, thanks for the invite.
Always glad to be here.
We should say it slower, and then it'll be right on time.
Slower. Add a little sass to it. Put some stank on it.
Y'all couldn't hear my chat in the background, could you, while I was doing that?
No, of course not. No.
Okay, good. Because we could hear it coming through my headphones. I didn't know if it was going through live on air or not. Did you all say hello to our viewers?
We did indeed.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera on tonight because people bitch when you don't turn your camera on for some reason. But, yeah, welcome once again to the Shooting Left of Center podcast. Well, we're starting off strong tonight. We're already up to about 200 viewers, and we just started. But we're going to, like I say, we're going to answer a few questions tonight, cover a few topics. First, let's go over a few things that are in the news right now. I think everyone's really upset about the stuff that's going on in California, and it's so easy to just say, it's California, don't move to California. But I think it really does set a bad precedent. My lips are a little tied tonight. So I am worried about all of it, but I think tomorrow we're going to see some bad crap go down as far as laws in California. Has anyone kept up with them more than I have?
No, I mean, just, listening to some of the channels who are out there and, talking to Heavy because he's, on the podcast I do, and he's over there, and so he's been trying to keep everybody apprised of what's going on. They're pretty much... they're just waiting for the hammer to drop. I mean, there's always that last little bit of hope that maybe Jerry Brown doesn't sign it. At least not all of them. But then again, most people realize he probably is. So.
Yeah, California doesn't seem to care. Unfortunately, the thing is, right now California is doing very well financially, so they don't care if it costs them a lot of money to fight it in court later. If it goes to Supreme Court, they're willing to just have it for as long as they can have it. So.
Yeah.
Even if they know it's not constitutionally sound, they'll still pass it. Whereas a poorer state that can't afford to defend the court case will say, yeah, we can't pass these because they'll never stand up to court scrutiny. And in 5 years, we will have just wasted tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money and be nowhere. California doesn't care. They score too many brownie points. And what about in Hawaii? Now, I'm not up to date on this. Probably Island could tell us something about this.
Yeah, we were talking to Hawaii Volcano Squad last night, and yeah, he's there, and essentially, and this is we were talking about the possibility of somebody taking this to court, maybe with some NRA or GOA or some other organizations or several other organizations helping to back them. But the problem comes, to take them to court, you have to prove that you've been damaged in some way. And the only way for somebody to do that is for somebody to...
And let's clear up what we're talking about first. We're talking about their law where they're actually putting people on lists if you buy a gun.
Yeah, which I forget what they call it, the Rat Back list, which is it's an FBI federal list that's supposed to only be for criminals. A state puts criminals on there, and then if that person goes to another state and commits a crime, the state that put them on there in the first place, more than likely their state of residence, then finds out about it. And they've just decided, we're going to put gun owners on this list as well.
I think it's for criminals. I think it's for people that have like school teachers and government jobs where it would matter if they were going to other states to be, criminals. So it's a way for them to not be able to go to another state away from their local laws and do bad stuff. And
we lost him there.
We lost him.
He's gone.
Hopefully he'll be back.
No, but he'll pop back on there. But yeah, it is. Yeah, there he is.
He's back. I really don't agree with you. That's my internet's bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm not understanding. Are you okay with the list, G-Webs? And do you have a reason why you're okay with it?
Okay. I'm just saying this. I don't think it's a list for criminals. The way I understand it, it's a list for like school teachers and things for people that they would care to monitor, so that if they go away from their state and do something bad, the Hawaii gets alerted. Like, hey, a school teacher's over here doing something bad, so that you can't hide from your state.
Okay. Maybe I misunderstood something because I thought at one point somebody said it's a list.
That doesn't make it right. That just not a list of criminals. It's a list of people who shouldn't be criminals, but the fact
so
that they
basically it's a watch list. It's a government watch list that we're watching you. It's a big brother.
Yes, it is. Now, if what you're saying is correct, which I'm no reason to doubt that, basically it would be the kind of thing that it's set up by the state, but it's really a matter of, well, if you want this job, you have to agree to be put on this list because we need to make sure that if you're a teacher or a bus driver, that you don't go to California and kill some people and then try and come back.
Yeah.
But at least
that doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you go to California and kill some people, they're not going to be like, all right, you go home and be good now.
Well, that's true.
If they catch you, they're going to put you in jail.
But at least that's not violating somebody's,
well, yeah,
rights.
but what if they already know if you commit a felony or anything, gross misdemeanor, anything, they're going to know about it. No matter where you're from, it's going to be tied to you if you get caught and you get convicted. So to me, I'll be wondering, my fear, and I know this sounds a little tinfoil hatish, I should get my tinfoil hat up there, but what are they really looking for? Because if they're going to know if you commit a felony or or a gross misdemeanor, what are they concerned about? Are they concerned if you go do something legal that they just don't agree with? Is that what it is? They want to extend their state laws?
I guess it would depend on what.
In their reach, they didn't have this list in the first freaking place, and now all of a sudden they can put gun owners on this list so that if you're bad, you can't have your right anymore. So they're going to have another list that says if you do something, if you say something wrong, you can't be on a list. If you look at the wrong websites, you can't use the internet.
No, the idea of the list is horrible. All I'm saying is that as of before this happened, it seems to me that they had it set up as a voluntary list in that, well, okay, if you want this job as a teacher, you just have to agree to be put on this list. Now, I don't agree with that, but at least in that point, it's not like they're. If that's what you're describing, then it's it's a list you agree to go on because you get a certain job, so that way they can monitor you. That's different than.
Yeah, I don't like that idea. I don't like that whole term monitoring.
That at least doesn't restrict somebody's constitutional
rights. Well,
it
does because it sets up a system where there's no oversight. And there's a check-back system.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't lead to it. It's there. If there's a list they can put people on.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Period. It's there. And to say it won't. Well, they won't abuse it. Name one thing they haven't abused.
That's what they've just done. They've just abused it. So I think
it's like the no-fly list.
What we talked about yesterday, as far as like trying to sue, is you have to have somebody who's willing to, because the way that the Hawaii system is set up, you buy a gun. You do your NICS background check, whatever, and then you go to the police station, or maybe it was the sheriff, I can't remember, but he said there was actually like a window. You go, you pay your permit fees or whatever it is there, and now what they want you to do is pay an extra $70 so that they can file you away on this list. So they want you to pay more money to buy that gun and to get put on the list. But here's the problem: if you refuse and say I'm not going to pay for that, I don't want to be put on that list, what they do is they deny your permit. And if you get denied a permit, they immediately come and they take all your guns away. That's what they do. It doesn't matter if you denied a permit because, at least this is the way that Hawaii was describing it last night. It doesn't matter why you get denied a permit. It doesn't even have to be something that can mean that you shouldn't own guns. If the state has a policy that if you are denied a permit for any reason, then they can just show up and take all your guns, because then, well, you were denied a permit, that automatically means all your previous permits are null and void. So the idea being that if somebody is going to sue the state, there has to be a person willing to do that and risk having their guns taken away and all their permits revoked so that they can prove damage, so that they can then take Hawaii to court. So the idea being, who's going to be that person that's going to step up and go through that to get this to go to court?
Yeah, that's why I said someone has to be damaged.
Right, when you guys were having that discussion last night, I started looking around at like Second Amendment Foundation and Gun Owners America, and then just on the web to see if anyone had started planning or strategizing that, and I think it's just too new. I didn't find anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a way for like like NRA or GOA or whoever to do it without that. But I mean, my understanding is there has to be some damage there if you're going to take somebody to court. They have to be able to. You can't just say, "Oh, well, potentially this could hurt me, so let's sue." You have to say.
Well, no, and that's true in some cases, and that's true if you want to seek damages. But if you're wanting to sue on the grounds that law is unconstitutional, that it somehow consists of creating a government list of people that have not offended, and somehow reducing their ability to freely exercise their rights, you can sue without being harmed, because the very fact that the law is unconstitutional is a violation of your rights.
Well, that's true. Somebody needs to jump on that. And like we were talking about last night, I'd be willing to donate $100 to an organization that's going to put all their money towards trying to take that law to court, because that is blatantly that's making a list of gun owners. That is putting gun owners on a federal list, and
anytime they say list,
prevented from doing that.
Anytime the government says list, period, like we want to keep a list of people for any reason that have not committed a crime yet or anything, I'm against it. Lists are never a good thing. They never work out well. They don't stop anything. They just give too much power to the people who want to make the lists.
Yeah.
The frustrating part is how this should be so apparent, right? I mean, this is something that their side, the position right now that's pushing for the stupid no-fly list and now this Hawaii list, they're the side that didn't want the McCarthy list and all the other damn lists that we've all fought as a group to get rid of over the years, right?
Oh, yeah, they were the ones that I mean, all up until just, maybe 2012. These were people, I mean, even in 2014, I mean, you had Huffington Post and a lot of these other organizations and even politicians talking about how horrible the no-fly list was and the terror watch list and all this crap.
The ACLU has it. The ACLU still has it listed as one of the most gross violations of people's civil liberties that's ever occurred in this country, right up there with Japanese internment camps and McCarthy hearings and everything. So why is everybody suddenly changing their opinions on lists?
Because it suits their agenda now. And that's the dangerous part about it, because, and this is what it's hard to get people who are anti-gun to understand, is look at what your party just did. Look at what your anti-gun brethren just did. They took something that they were vehemently against for a very, very long time, especially while Bush was in office. And the minute that they realized they could use it to fit their own agenda, they flipped on the issue. Now imagine, now you want to allow them to put laws into place that can happen in 6 months. What if the person who you fear, Donald Trump, becomes president? Do you want him then being in control of these same things you want them to put into place now, and then see it flip again? This is the problem, and that's what you have to try and convince people to pay attention to.
Because I know he's going to make a list of people that have never watched The Apprentice and round us all up, make us watch The Apprentice. I don't want to do that.
I'm going to get hauled into prison for my videos. I mean,
Hey, I've never. I wonder if I'd get put on a list for voting for Johnson again. I think if you vote for Johnson 3 times, you automatically go on a list, and this will be my 3rd vote for Johnson. So we're going to see what happens.
Well, this will be my 2nd, as long as he doesn't do anything else ridiculously stupid.
Oh, I'd love when he does stupid stuff.
It's I mean, I want to support a strong third party, but he's gone off the rails a little bit this time around.
I just want to get him to 15%. That's all I want.
Oh, I do too. I want to get him there, so I want to see him on the stage with everybody else. I mean, I know what he's doing right now. He's pandering to the Bernie crowd.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's doing right now, and that's fine, just as long as he doesn't go too far into that side of things where he's going to start talking about all the crap,
libertarian. Sorry, I stepped away.
Yes, yeah. Gary Johnson.
The new commercial. I don't know if it's a new commercial. New to me, I saw it on the Facebook or something, and it's just sort of him and his running mate talking about how they're libertarians or whatever, and blah blah blah. Fresh start, get us on the ticket. We're already on all the ballots or something. But what I thought was interesting is they didn't bring up. They talked about abortion. They talked about choices and all this, but they didn't say anything about guns. So I don't know. Maybe they're, like you say, maybe they're appealing to the left, and they don't. I mean,
Gary Johnson, I forget what it was. He passed, when he was governor, he passed some pretty good pro-gun laws when he was governor. I'm trying to think what exactly it was. There was one law in particular that he was actually the first governor to pass it in the country. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I have to do a little bit of research, but I know he's touted as being the first governor to sign off on one particular type of pro-gun law. He's been consistently a pro-gun guy, so I have no reason to doubt that in particular about him at all. I mean, who knows? But I think he's not talking about it right now because, for one, it's just not the time. People are too up in arms about guns and that kind of thing, and he's going to play. Right now, he's playing to the Bernie crowd. He knows he's already got his, whatever, 10%, 15% of people who are more right-leaning. So now it's like, hey, now's my time. People don't like Hillary. Let me see if I can get some of the Bernie people on board. Maybe I can get to that 15% to get on stage with those other 2 jackasses. So that's where he's pandering right now. So I think he's just going to stay away from guns because he's trying to get their votes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to know when to keep your mouth shut, even if you agree with something, because you can win more people by just not mentioning it than you can by bringing it up. The people that are pro-gun already know Johnson's position on guns. They already know he's pro-gun, so he doesn't need to sell us.
And like we've talked about, for some of us are pro-gun, but not uniformly anything else together. So if he's going to try to appeal to those pro-gunners who are willing to leave the Republican side, then he's just going to go to more of the social stuff or whatever, like he did.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Okay, now I know everyone's heard about Brexit and how England has voted to remove itself from the European Union. I could really give a rat's ass one way or the other myself about what's going on right now because of it. Like, oh, the rich people are losing some stock money. I don't really care. I want to talk about how that kind of affects us, how that is a reflection that a lot of the Brexit topics were conservative topics, the ones Donald Trump is pushing now. No more Islamic refugees, no more letting someone else make our decisions for us, like some sort of world power thing. No more sending our money to overseas. So it was a lot of the more conservative, bring jobs back to England stuff. So I want to know, does anyone here think that actually bodes well for Trump come this election season, that maybe he can pull it out?
I don't think it hurts him. I mean, I think it shows their sentiment out there. But the problem, I mean, Britain and us are very different. I mean, there's like less people in Britain than there is in Texas. You know what I mean? So it's a little petri dish that we can look at and see, hey, maybe some of these things are pulling through. They pulled through what it was 52%.
52 to 48.
Yeah. So it was fairly close margin, but it was just enough to squeak by. I don't know, man. As far as Donald Trump and his whether or not he can pull it out, I keep going back and forth because he goes on a run there for a week or two, and I think, okay, I think he can do it, and then he just starts nosediving and saying all the wrong things, and the polls shift drastically the other way. And granted, I mean, we're still 4 months out, so we haven't even hit the conventions yet. So who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, I as much as I dislike the man, I hope it's him over Hillary.
Yeah, and I wonder, well, I have very little hope that he's going to win, I'll say that. But I wonder how many people out there would actually vote for Trump that wouldn't tell anybody they're voting for Trump. And I kind of wonder how many, of these polls are very accurate, because polls are getting less and less accurate because, let's face it, who answers calls on their cell phone from people they don't know?
Yeah.
So it's just getting worse and worse for them to try to get data.
Yeah.
And plus, most of these polls, it's kind of like the poll that I think it's NBC has up right now about gun rights, and it came out 93% of people think you should be able to carry a gun in public. So they'll never post that poll on their news program.
No, of course not.
Because
you're talking about that one that Matt linked to the other day on Facebook?
Yeah, I linked to a couple of them. Yeah.
No, this one was actually on the NBC News website. But.
Yeah, but when Matt posted it on Facebook, that's where I saw it, and I had to double take. I went and I copied the answers and put them back there because I had taken the poll, and it was something like, yes, I want more open carry laws. No, I'm afraid those guns being available will hurt people, and I have no opinion, right? So I answered, yes, of course I want open carry laws. So then I read the summary, and it goes, overwhelmingly Republicans and Democrats in favor
want new laws.
More gun laws. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? This is how you summarize open carry is new gun laws?
Yeah, I think I've seen that one too, but the one I'm talking about is just a very simple question. It says, people should be allowed to carry guns in public, and then it's A, I agree, the Constitution allows it.
Yeah.
No, it's too dangerous, or C, only for self-defense.
Yeah, and that was the one
That was much clearer.
Yeah, and that was the one I posted.
93%. 93% said yes, the Constitution.
There was two of them. The one you saw, G-Webs, was the second one that I posted. The other one I posted.
They'll never post that. They'll never publicize that on their news programs because they prefer to publicize the polls where they have a target market, where they'll hire these polling companies that want to produce, like Bloomberg. He basically contacts a polling company, tells them the result he wants, and they figure out which zip code they need to call, which income level area they need to call to get the results they want.
Yeah, how
And
to
so
answer the question, and then to make it sound like they asked an open question, but yeah, to tailor it to exactly what they want.
And then, so these things like web polls, the reason they don't ever show those is because they have no control who votes in that. That's just whoever wants to walk up and vote can walk up and vote. Where when they're doing their controlled call polls, they can choose to call. If we call, Compton and talk to the black mothers that have lost kids to gun violence, they'll say people shouldn't be allowed to carry guns. And if we call the wealthy people in upstate New Hampshire and ask them if regular people should be allowed to carry guns, all those people will say no. So we can tailor our results however we want them that way.
And you can say you got a diversity of income brackets and geography there. Can I mention, you asked though originally what we thought of Trump chances based on the Britain whatever. So I would like to say that it would seem like it should line up, right? But what drives me nuts is the fact that I've never met anyone who likes Hillary on the left or the right. Everyone uniformly hates Hillary, yet she's blowing everything away constantly. So
and to play into that, there's something a friend of mine. He doesn't do YouTube videos or anything. He did something, posted something on Facebook, and I thought it was interesting because basically he said, you have this phenomenon. I mean, imagine yourself, a year ago, and we know the mainstream media is biased, and they're going to be biased towards Hillary Clinton, and that's just how it is. We know they're biased towards the Clintons, especially this time around because that's their golden calf right now because there is no Obama or there's nobody else, so it's got to be her. What's the perfect way to ensure that people are going to pick Hillary? And the idea being, well, you spend all your time and all your attention focusing on a Republican candidate who is so off the wall and so unlike anything you've ever seen before and so unlikely to get voted in, so unlikely to beat her because he's whatever, that you spend all your media attention focusing on him so that he becomes the nominee to go up against her. You never say anything bad about her. You don't really say a whole lot bad about him. You just let him just go off, and then you see what happens.
And I hate to say it. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I am definitely a Hillary hater. And I hate to say it, I am 98% sure Hillary's going to win the election. I don't think, especially because of the state I'm in, I am not going to be able to change that because my state is going to go Clinton. It just clearly is going to go Clinton. So the best thing I can do with my vote, all these people say, don't vote third party. That's crap, because the best thing I can possibly hope to do with my vote is push a third-party candidate into that bracket where they get to start being parts of the debate, and they get to be start to get public funding so that we can actually have a viable third party so we don't have to choose between the two, which one of the two we have stink the least at the moment.
Yeah. And that, that's something people need to pay attention to, because right now we have the potential to push a third party and make it strong and get him in that 15%. We know he's not going to win this time. That's fine, but we can start building for now, and you can do so without hurting Republicans if that's what you're worried about, by just paying attention to what state you live in. I live in Texas. Trump's going to win no matter what. I can vote for Gary Johnson. I can help put that those numbers towards him, just like Yankee can, because no matter what, it doesn't matter. Your state's going to go towards Clinton. So you have the opportunity to help to build a strong third party, so that maybe next time we do have a valid third choice that can get, 34% in an election. You know what I mean? Maybe that happens in 4 years, or maybe it's 8 years. Who knows? But if we can do something now to help build that without screwing over the Republicans, because he's still better than her, why not take that chance?
And let's break it to people. 10 years ago, everyone would have said, no, we're way out on a black president. No, we're way out on a female president. So the same party, people are saying, now we can never have a viable third party. Let's see how wrong they are in 5 years if we start taking the steps we need to take now to make a third party viable.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I just want to help build that so we have other options.
So we already have people out there telling us that and I haven't said nothing, but they're telling you two that voting third party is voting for Hillary or whatever. So that aside, because we're never going to be able to do
Well,
it.
just real quick, I want to address the other side of that, because there are tons and tons and tons and tons of people on the left who are saying a vote for anybody but Hillary is a vote for Trump. So keep talking your shit. It doesn't mean anything, and you don't know what you're talking about. So there you go.
Well, I was going to ask if we ignore that facet of it, because I don't think we can change someone's mind if they believe that. But I understand for sure the concept of, especially in situations people are in where if we're not one of those key states or whatever, and we know that it's going to go one way or the other, then we have the potential to influence it. I guess two questions. One, has anyone done the math? Because there's got to be math for this. Is it possible that enough people on both sides could say, I'm in one of those states, because we know what those states are generally that aren't as important, because we usually go one way or the other all the time. So if enough people in those states voted third, and then that went, for the president, could that be enough to throw it off completely, so there was no majority winner, that it was like a three-way tie at like 33%? And then again, and then to follow up.
I'm betting there could be.
Okay, and then to follow up with that, if every, how we always talk about people will vote president and then the ticket, Republican, Democrat, the whole way down. If people started doing libertarian, and then is it possible that we'd get a bunch of libertarian senators in Congress this time around?
Absolutely.
I think it's very possible, because let's say you live in a state. Oh, hold on. Let's say you live in a state, like say you live in California, or let's just say you live in a state where if it doesn't matter how many votes one person gets, if the other person gets one vote more than you, they get all your delegates. So let's say you live in a state where okay, the best the Republican's going to hope for in this category, in this state, or the best the Democrat's going to hope for in this state is 40%. They've never gotten more than 40% in this state, and they're not going to this time either. So if all that 40%, instead of wasting their votes on a Republican that has no chance of winning their state, or a Democrat that has no chance of winning their state, if they wasted those votes on a Libertarian that had no chance of really winning their state either, but ended up with 30 or 40% of the popular vote, they would be one of the main powers next year, and the main parties would have to start getting their shit in order to deal with the fact that so many people voted third party.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's like we, as gun owners, we're always talking, and they're always bringing the fight to us, and we're always defending ourselves. So we stop then, and we gather our wits, and then we just sit there. We don't ever take back territory. But if we look at it from the political side, they're over there doing their ping pong game, both sides of the coin type of shit between the left and the right, and you get this third option in there enough, then yeah, they kind of have to stop their ping pong game and both work on stopping that third party, disrupting their game. Right?
Yeah, because they can't just play, okay, we'll take 50%, you take 50%, and that way we'll make sure nothing ever changes. Because if there's someone who can take 31% or 35%, they're screwed.
Yeah, and seriously, it could be 25%, really, and now it's enough that they can't just agree to slice it up. So, yeah, I think that we got a real potential here. People say it's going to be a critical election. Right? I think we got a potential here to see some change.
Yeah. I mean, especially if enough people who are just dissatisfied with Hillary and Trump just decided to say, look, I live in a state where I can pull this off, where I'm not gonna rock the election one way or the other. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna vote third party. It's gonna make them a force to be reckoned with, and the media and everybody's gonna have to take notice.
Yeah, they're gonna have to, and they can't keep playing the same games of they've only got two options. So as long as we divvy up the hot button topics and we be pro one, you be pro the other, we'll all get half the vote all the time, and it'll be such a little difference, and there's so little difference between us actually that we'll always be in power. If they didn't have that option, things would change a lot. I mean, just look how much the parties have had to change this election. Do you think you would have ever had Hillary Clinton afraid to say she's for TPP like she is now? Do you think you would ever had a candidate like Trump on the other side, who is not big business and not big, pro-billionaire, who's talking about bringing jobs back to working class people and not exporting jobs overseas? Both parties now had to do complete flip-flops because they found out people aren't listening to us anymore, and they don't give a shit what we've got to say anymore. They're just getting tired of things, and if a third party came along right now, it would probably destroy us. So this is the time to build that third party.
So I suggest that I don't disagree with you, but the way that they're losing that grasp or that control is because the media is losing its effectiveness. We don't blindly follow what they tell us anymore, and we create our own, like we're doing right now, right? So there's less and less ability for them to sway mass numbers of people, right?
Yep. Because now, I mean, there are more people who wake up every day and get their news from Facebook or Instagram or Twitter than they do from turning on Good Morning America or NBC or CBS or whatever. And a lot of that information is coming from just us,
Let me
just
ask you
people.
this came up earlier in the Gun Channel's chat, right? Somebody had brought up like how it's, I don't remember when this was reported, but it was relatively recently. Somebody said, or some report came out that said that young people get more of their news from like the Jon Stewarts than the nightly news, right? That they get their news from the entertainment things. So how much would you say, or how long do you think it's going to take between like the Jay Leno's and the, what's the guy who was before him, and then the Letterman, right? Where they had like a grasp, just like the TV channels had a grasp. You know, they owned the late night everything, and then it was just the three of them, and then it was five of them, and now it's, I don't know how many. I haven't had TV in a long time, but I suspect those are getting more options, and they're each getting less influence on the late night audience, and more people are jumping over to your YouTube. I've done talking to Hosh, and he was at the video convention for YouTube, and just, you know, there's so much interest in the YouTube side of it. I'm thinking the transition is going from those late night hosts who have an influence because they're offering news to these people to they're getting, like you just said, their news off the Facebook in the morning. So now no one's controlling it because they're deciding which feeds they're going to watch, right?
And when they're going to watch it and who they want to watch, and they've got 50 options instead of just 2, so it's a lot different now.
So yeah, you got a lot of money and you got an agenda. There's no one place you can go spend that money and have some influence. Now there's 16, 18, 100, and all you can do is spend a fraction of your big money on each of those little things, and you're going to get less and less influence each time. And look, the viral video or a funny opinion, Yankee is an excellent example. Nobody's paying Yankee to say nothing, and he can say something honestly,
Sadly.
and people know that it's coming honestly from him. So they can take that with actual clout. You know, you can't take nothing Hillary says ever as, you know, real opinion. You always have to question what her authenticity is.
Because she's just a dishonest person, period. So you can't take anything she says seriously.
So anyway, I think we're making headway, and I think we got a real potential here. I mean, there's definitely people that see the past and see that the way the dynamics have worked, but man, we're definitely changing in every other aspect. Why wouldn't our politics change? And why wouldn't they change?
I'm trying to keep up with questions we're getting in here. We've got a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, that were asking about, where was it at here? I just missed it. I know I just saw it. Someone had just mentioned
here, or one was coming up through the scroll.
Well, it's coming up through the scroll, and a lot of people in the in the chat had asked about it also.
Gun
okay, I've lost it. I've lost it. We started talking about the Jay Leno stuff, and I've lost what I was wanting to talk about. Yeah, that's live television.
And the guns.
Was it midget hookers or?
No.
From the 40.
Yeah, it was.
Was it AK versus AR?
No. Oh, it was about the Trump ban on Muslims from entering the country. Basically, I had so many people ask us, what do we think about Trump's idea to ban Muslims from entering the country?
I have a question on this, because here's what I've been hearing a lot, and I've been hearing this from people who are traditionally not, you know, they don't like Trump, they don't like Hillary, they're in the middle somewhere. People like myself, and talking about, oh, well, you have two choices. You got one side that wants to, you know, do away with guns. You got the other side that wants to do away with people's, you know, freedom of religion by not allowing people who have a certain, you know, religious leaning or whatever to come into the country, and either way it's unconstitutional. And again, I don't like Trump, but I don't understand how we are now somehow applying our constitutional rights onto people who are not from this country. I don't care about the ban on Muslims or anything. Honestly, I don't have an opinion on it. So if they would decide they want to do it because they think it's just too much trouble and there's too many things happening, let them do it. If they decide not to do it, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But I don't see how saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to stop immigration from certain countries because we're having problems from people coming from these countries. how is that unconstitutional when these people are not, they're not U.S. citizens? How is that? And how is it saying that, oh, well, it's not freedom of religion? Well, it's not about religion. It's about the shit your religion is telling you to do. It's two different things. Now, you may not like Christianity, and that's fine. But as long as Christians aren't going around killing people because they say their Bible tells them to, well, who cares? You know what I mean? But the minute that starts happening, I think people would have a problem. So I don't understand, and I've heard this argument a lot. I don't know if you guys have heard it, but that it's unconstitutional to try and say that people from certain countries can't come in.
We've put immigration bans on other countries before for different reasons. So putting a ban on a country because they're producing a lot of violent terrorists that are threatening to kill us and are actually doing so, nothing unconstitutional about that. It's been done many times, withstood court scrutiny. Now, I will have to say that I am not against a Muslim ban because I don't like religious tests by the government for anything, so I would never support that, period. But I'm also very pro, why would you let anyone into this country that we have not vetted thoroughly before they come? So I'm just for paying more attention to who's coming and not letting people that we think are a potential problem in. We don't have to let people in, so stop doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's immigration. If we just need to say, look, you're coming from a part of the world that's causing a lot of problems. I'm sorry. We will help set up camps. We'll send aid. We will donate money to the Red Cross and all these organizations that want to go over there and help you guys. We'll send our military to try and help protect you. But we're just not going to start letting you guys come over here. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't think that's unconstitutional in any way. But I'm hearing this. And maybe it's just a minority I'm hearing it from. I don't know.
Well, for hearing Yankee talk all this about stopping people from entering, it seems like a lot of people enter his garage when they feel like it.
My son bothering me over there. He always waits till I'm on the podcast to come in and bother me. And this is my garage, people. This is not my bathroom. People think that's my shower curtain. It's just a curtain so that you don't see where I do all my work over there and all my junk is laying. Because I've got guns disassembled on the counter over there and rifles sitting on the counter up here where I was doing a video. So just a
bunch of guns and rifles and stuff.
It's just a curtain with a bunch of stuff back there. People think I'm doing these from my bathroom. I get that asked all the time.
I heard that Yankee has a bunch of guns in his shower.
David Rendon in the chat here is asking, what is the most gun control we would support? I don't know, what, a bipod maybe? I think that would probably be anything more than a bipod is.
I think a sling is valid support for a rifle.
Yeah, but I would think a sling would come under bipod. I think bipod would trump sling, so if you accept up to a bipod, that would imply that you're accepting slings too. So
I see your logic. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I just got to point this out. John Bell over in the chat saying that banning a religion would most likely be unconstitutional. Nobody's talking about banning a religion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not about their religion. It's about what, people from a certain part of the world. Yeah, they happen to all believe in the same thing, but that's not our problem. That's their problem. You know what I mean? So, two different things.
Yeah, so I said you can't have a religious test, but you can say, hey, people from Iraq can't immigrate right now. And if they do, they have to be under extra scrutiny, and there's no temporary visas. You have to be vetted before you come over here. So there's nothing wrong with that at all in my mind. But I don't like religious tests, so I wouldn't agree with that.
Well, I'm not really into immigration that much. I've spent all my time on the gun stuff, so I'm not trying to say I know nothing here, but I'll play devil's advocate. And I did hear something one time, maybe on NPR or something, about we need people like translators and people that understand culture and stuff like that. So I think we should stop short of not bringing anybody over, because we are like free, and there must be people that hate that shit and know about that shit and are able to deal with it. So.
Yeah, there's going to be legitimate people wanting to get out of every country. So that's why I just say, if you're from Iraq, you're going to be vetted before you come over here, but you can still come over once you're vetted.
And then I also can't understand, if there's need from more than one country, why would we even consider taking more people from any one country? It should be there's a process, and you deal with the process, and maybe we can evaluate the process, but I don't understand why we would need to bring influx from any one country. There's no bigger emergency somewhere than another place, is there? Maybe.
Well, you know, places like Syria, I guess there's big emergencies where they're trying to get out before they get blown up. But
What do you mean that they have to come here? There's not a whole bunch of places between here and
no,
there.
there's all kinds of places they should go. Like Saudi Arabia, our big allies. What the hell are they doing for these people?
Right. What are those
They
big
just-
tent cities? Is that for like when people go to Mecca or something? Is because I keep seeing these giant like tent.
Well, a lot of
villages.
those were refugee centers where they put up the refugees living in tents while they're. Oh, and I want to get back to the question from David Rendon. We kind of made a joke out of it with bipods. I'm a little different than maybe two of the people in this chat because I am okay with background checks. I don't see background checks as a way to stop crime because background checks don't stop crime. They just don't. And then people are like, oh, what about people who get denied? Well, most people who get denied don't get denied because they're actually a criminal. They get denied just because they're delayed or denied, and it gets turned over on appeal. Like 80-something% get it overturned on appeal. So that's very few people they stop. And here's the other thing. Just because someone who has a disqualifying factor when they're 18 years old, now they're 40, and they go try to buy a gun, if you stop them from buying one, that doesn't mean you stopped a crime, because what's the chances that they wanted to do a crime with that, commit a crime with that gun? Very little, if any. So background checks don't stop crime. The only way I see a positive thing for background checks is when someone does something bad that we've decided one of the punishments is you don't get to exercise your rights until you're off probation. I want them to not be able to exercise their rights. I want them to go into a store and they call their name in, they're like, you've been bad, so until you're off probation, you can't buy a gun.
Yeah. And that's one of those things, we've talked about that before. People ask, well, should a felon be able to buy a gun? Well, here's the thing. If you've done something so horrible, you should still be in jail. If they've decided to release you, maybe there's a probationary period after you've been released or whatever. But at some point, you get your rights back. You know what I mean? Because I've known people personally who have done some really, really bad things, and they went to prison and they did their time, and they came out better people, you know, and people can change. And so if somebody's so horrible, you know, they killed children or whatever, keep them in jail or, you know, give them the death penalty. I don't know.
And let's face facts. Most people that are recidivist felons are in prison. And most of the people that are out walking the streets now that have a felony record, you know, stole a car when they were 17 or 18 years old, or had a felony trespass when they were 17 or 18 years old. Now they're in their 40s and they've been labeled that forever, even though they're not a violent person. Let's stop perpetuating this myth that these killers are out on the street because they killed someone, then they got out of jail, now they're out roaming around. Now those kind of people that do, you know, career criminals, they're in jail. They don't stay out very long. They stay out like a week or two and they go back. So.
And let's not make the mistake of, and those people get a hold of guns anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not.
While they're out, they're not running 4473s.
Yeah.
So I'm against all of them for the basic reason that it gets us to distrust have faith in our fellow neighbor. It fosters distrust in our neighbor for no reason, because there's no reason to distrust our neighbor or what our neighbor owns or what our neighbor does, because we're in general nice to each other. And it gives the authority to a government that doesn't need the authority and shouldn't have the authority. But specifically the background checks things, I say it's time to ask them to justify it. They've been doing it now for a long time. It wasn't the rule of the land until just recently. It happens to be our lifetimes, but as far as the country's concerned, it's a fairly recent obligation, a burden that they put on us, an infringement that they put on us. So I say it's time to start justifying it. But if you're not down with me pushing the front line in the other direction, trying to get some momentum so that they have to justify these things instead of them saying, we infringed on you with a broken system, but it's broken, so we need to add to it. Then we can say it's broken and it's costing us a lot of money, it's ineffective, why should we even be burdened with it? If you're not down with that line of reasoning, then what about the idea that there's wanted lists? Like back in the day, you go to the post office and there was a list of wanted people. What if there's a wanted list instead? When you go to buy a gun, they say, are you on the wanted list? No. Then you're not implying everyone's guilty until the government has deemed them innocent through a background check, but instead you've said, are you one of the people we've deemed who can't have a gun? And now let the FBI and whoever federal agents are tasked with running who the bad guys are keep track of that.
That's a simple way to do it.
But I don't like that either, because then it's a list of bad guys, and like Matt said, if you're a bad guy, then you're a bad guy. If you're done being a bad guy, let your life start again.
Well, I mean, I agree with probation, though, because I think that one of the parts of a rehabilitation system, if system isn't just for punishment, if it's for actual rehabilitation, which we love to say, but I don't ever really see much evidence of it, then it does have to include like a probationary period where if it's okay, you did well in jail, now we're going to let you out in the populace and see how well you do out there, and if you do well for a year, you're a free man.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just kind of a,
compromise is important. So I'll say if they're on probation, then they're limited to 22 and 9mm.
22. Well, they can't hurt anybody with that anyway. Or better yet, give them 45s, like I said earlier, because if anybody shoots at you with a 45, if they're more than 10 feet away, you just step out of the way before the bullet gets there. That's to piss off all the old people out in the audience right now. I had another question here I want to ask. Someone asked me, and I can't remember who it was, and I can't find the question again, is what has happened with the Kimber K6S? Your guess is as good as mine. They've given 4 different release dates now, and they haven't released it on any of them. They aren't responding to any messages I send them about when the freak is this thing coming out. So I don't know. Oh, it's Logan Waltz asked that question. They said, what happened to the new Kimber K6S? Did it vanish or what? I'm like, your guess is as good as mine right now. Did you all see any questions you specifically want to answer?
I'm flying through on both sides, really.
Yeah. Somebody was asking about what's your favorite rifle for defense. I don't know.
I've got this whole list right here of questions that came in earlier today. Right there. So I just posted in our internal chat there in case you guys want to look at any of them. But
well, that just goes to my comments, I think.
What is?
It's a bunch of people ragging on my videos.
Yeah, that just goes to my comments page. Fail. Gotta love being live, don't you?
What is going on here?
Gotta keep things interesting.
Not sure. Maybe he's getting some.
So real quick, I'm just going to answer the question while Yankee's trying to figure that out, because the guys asked it several times. This was John Andrew Serrano. Hey, Yankee and friends, know you're not a big rifle guy, but if you ever wanted to rifle for self-defense, what would be your top 2 choices? I think top 2 choices are obvious. It's AR and AK. There is no other 2 options.
Yeah, me too.
I just want to say the reason I was sitting there looking confused for a few moments is because for some reason I started hearing a conversation between G-Webs and somebody I didn't recognize, and it was because I had gun channels open in the background and one of the chats started.
Oh. And it's on the tab, you're like, what the hell?
I'm like, where is this happening? Where is this, what's this coming from? I was like, did someone jump in that I didn't see? What's going on? But yeah, you all answered that question. So, and I gave you that link there to the other questions list.
No, that takes us to our own comments list, so we didn't see once you're
done. People talk amongst themselves. Someone asked, do you recommend mixing ammo in a Glock mag? I don't like to mix ammo in a mag. I don't mind carrying different mags with different types of ammo in it. But I always say just choose a good overall ammo. And a lot of people have asked what ammo we're using in our carry guns. Lately I've been carrying the Browning High Power, and I've been carrying either Corbon, 115 grain Corbon, which is my favorite for Corbon, or I've been carrying in the other magazine the Extreme Penetrators by Lehigh Defense. So that's what I've been carrying.
I like Remington Gold Sabers. Those are my favorites for 9mm. Using those for 15 years or better. So.
Have you ever tried the Corbons? They're pretty peppy. They're like 1,300 feet per second out of a.
I mean, I'm sure I have at some point or another. I don't know. I've always been a fan of the Golden Sabers. I also like the old school Winchester Rangers. Of course, they don't make them anymore, so finding them is.
And I'm pretty sure G-Webs carries a 1911, right, with a good old-fashioned full metal jacket 45, right?
Kind of 41. Oh,
sure. Someone said something, Extreme Penetrators. I like those Extreme Penetrators. They're pretty good rounds, even though it does sound kind of bad. Says, what do you think about the banning of high-capacity magazines? The idea that less rounds per mag means less casualties in an active situation.
Yep.
Don't think it makes any difference because, for one, there's so many mags around already. I mean, what's going to stop someone from getting an old mag? And
yeah. Oh, how did Columbine go, by the way? Just to throw that out there. Did you like Columbine? That happened in the middle of the Saltwood span?
Exactly. Those kind of things just don't work. Okay, this one's funny. Now that the Army has lifted the ban on transgender people, but Jaeger can now serve in the military openly.
I've seen one where they said Klinger wouldn't get a Section 8 anymore.
No, he never got a Section 8 anyway. He tried. Remember, he never actually got one. So he was there up till the end.
Yeah, but that was one of those things you see it on the Facebook or whatever on the feed, and it's like, oh dang, I haven't thought about MASH or whatever in forever.
Oh, here's one. Somebody's asking, what would you pick for a $250 EDC? You're on a budget, only $250. What do you pick?
For a night?
No, for a gun.
Can you still get? I mean, I don't know because it's been a long time since I've looked at them. Can you still get any of the old Makarovs or anything in that price range?
No, the Makarovs, because they're starting to become collectible. They're pushing $300 now.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Maybe a little jump.
I mean, you can get, and they're not in good shape. You
used to be able to get a nice one for like $200.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can get the P64 for about $199, and they're good. It's 6+1, and those are good. I like those. They're not Makarovs, but they're still very good, reliable guns. You can pick those up at like AIM Surplus and stuff. I've been thinking about getting one. It's basically a Polish version of a Makarov. I like those much better than what was the later version, the P80 something, whatever. This P64 is a good gun. I'd recommend that. I also like, because I used to carry one of these for a while, and yeah, everybody's going to go, oh yeah, of course, the Taurus 709 Slim, which is the slim line little 9mm. Those have now started to sell for about.
They're kind of cool.
Yeah, I used to own one for quite a while. I used to carry it, and then I got tired of it because I was like, I'm just going to carry my Glock 26. I don't mind the extra thickness on it, so I get some extra rounds. But they're now starting to sell for about $199. I'm seeing them online for $199, so that's all.
I just looked up something that somebody sent me here. Billy Seeley sent me. He said SD9VE by Smith & Wesson, and I'm just glad to go look. But yeah, they are selling for about $250.
Oh, they are.
And the one I had was fine, and the guy I gave it to is still shooting it. So if you're on a budget, that would be like poor man's Glock, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. The only thing you do have to take into consideration is a lot of these prices we're talking about are online. So know what your FFL charges to transfer a gun to you, because if it's like in my area, it's $40. So you got to add that into the cost of whatever you're spending. So if you're on a budget, just keep that in mind.
Here it's $20 if you get charged. If you know a gun shop owner, you can usually get it for free.
Yeah.
But it's $20 standard. We have a couple places to do it for $15.
And I've been hearing really good things about the Sky pistols. I'm almost ready to buy one just to try it out. I've been hearing a lot of people say they're rough triggers and stuff, but people are starting to like them.
If I'm not mistaken, G-Web's had a not too great experience with one.
Well, it's like anything. Some people are going to have bad problems with them. So.
My knuckle's just too big. I couldn't really even reset the trigger. I mean, I didn't spend a lot of time on it or anything, but.
Yeah, but you're like a big orangutan size. You're gigantic. Most people probably wouldn't have that problem.
I have Donald Trump size hands.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So huge.
That's why you like those little NAA revolvers.
Make his hands look big.
Exactly. So I am going to be the one that votes for saving your money and buying a real gun. Buy a novelty gun or a range gun for $250, but just wait a minute and buy a gun like a $350 used Glock or something.
Yeah, but I mean,
all of us are going to agree with that, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of us would agree with that, but I think we could also all agree that buying a Milcert P64 or
This is for carry. So I'm going to go with the Glock, and then later, if you really want to explore other guns and you can get one at a deal, sure, go nuts with those other guns.
And for $350, I see $350 all the time on very gently used, like Smith & Wesson J-frames.
Yeah,
for $350,
that's about the 40. Everybody's going to 9 again, so the 40s are all over the place to use, right? So you can get inexpensive.
Oh yeah, 40s are everywhere.
You use Glock 23 for $300 now. I mean, the old police trade-ins. I mean, because everybody's moving away from 40 now. So yeah, I mean, there's look around, you can find it. So.
Here's a good question someone asked, and I can't find the question again. I'm horrible about finding the questions again. But if you asked it, I'm probably pretty sure you know. And I think more than one person asked it, so you can just assume you're the one that I'm talking about. What do we think about the U.S. Army potentially going to Glocks? Would we approve of that or disapprove of that? I'm going to go on record first, because everyone knows how I feel about Glocks. I'm going to say I would be totally for the U.S. Army going for a Glock, because I'm sure Glock would practically give them to them for free, and since I'm the one paying for those damn guns as a taxpayer, a Glock is good, a Glock is sturdy, a Glock is reliable, and in the military, a sidearm is an afterthought. It's basically a part of part of a dress uniform more than it is anything else. It's a handgun. So I don't think handguns play that big a role in the military, so as long as it's functional, I'm fine. So if we can get them for next to free by switching over to Glocks, and they started making them in America, that's a double win if they started making a bunch in America to fulfill the requirements. And our soldiers got good, reliable guns for next to nothing, and us as taxpayers didn't have to pay for them. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem at all. I mean, why not? You know, it's a solid gun. It works. It does what you need it to do. And as you said, I mean, their sidearm is less than secondary in many cases. So
yeah,
I mean, it's you know,
it's very little more than a part of your uniform.
Yeah, it does what they need it to do. It's not gonna have problems. It's not gonna fail. Why not? And so there are some units that already carry it. So I mean, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure G-Webs is for it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. 34 parts, even the Marines could use that gun.
Yeah, exactly. They could even figure. Well, Marines would find some way to put it back together wrong.
Yeah, it would be more difficult for them to break that.
Don't give them too much shit. My nephew just joined up, so.
Yeah, that says a lot about your nephew.
Hey.
I always say the Marines. It's saying I'm a Marine is the same thing as saying I failed the ASVAB test. Not that we're just giving Marines shit. We all love the Marines, especially if they're in the room. But my grandfather was a Marine, so I was raised by a Marine. So, but the other question, this is not a question, but someone mentioned it up here about the FBI going to Glocks, back to Glocks, I guess. They are pissed, and I've heard this from multiple sources. The people who set the criteria for the gun, and I think there's some information out on the internet now about it. I heard about it the other day. They built their criteria specifically to rule Glock out. Like they said, no finger grooves and some other things, because they knew it'd be like, haha, now the bean counters can't buy a Glock again because they didn't want Glocks. They wanted something else. Well, the bean counters with the Glock, and Glock just gave them frames with no grooves, so they got to buy the guns for next to free again. And the people who they gave the power to make the list are pissed because they were deliberately trying to not get Glocks. They wanted the SIG P320.
So does that mean the Glock Gen 5 is going to be no finger grooves version?
Well, see, what I'm wondering is, did Glock make a whole new run of frames, or they have like cases of them in the
right? They got to. They're not grinding them, so they got to make a new mold.
Well, do they have a lot of old Gen 2 frames laying around or something? What are they doing?
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think about Gen 2 frames. They might be able to start with that, but I'm thinking, they're just going to make a fingerless or finger grooveless Gen 5, or do some sort of a replaceable backstrap like with the Maya grip or whatever, where it just kind of insert the piece you want.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see what happens. I know those guys that because basically the bean counters make the decision, but as a compromise, they gave the people that are in charge of the guns the right to make the requirements list. But then they found a way around their requirements list. But like I say, it's a reliable gun, so I don't think the FBI is going to be dropping left or right because their guns weren't any good. Yeah, they wanted the SIG 320 is what they wanted, and everyone wants the SIG 320 nowadays. Even some people who are well known on the internet for saying the Glock should be the only gun made have now switched to the P320.
The P320 is a good gun. I know some people don't like the trigger, but it's a nice gun.
It's a great gun. I mean, I don't want one. I mean, but it's because I'm just not the biggest polymer gun fan. I have tried to love polymer guns. I have put myself into lots of what I consider abusive relationships with these guns because I just put up with their shit for, it doesn't feel right and it doesn't balance right. But I try to tell myself it still loves me, but after a while, it just goes bad, and I end up, fleeing in the middle of the night with a suitcase to get away from them because I don't like the polymer guns.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just I got so much invested in Glocks now already. So, just with parts and magazines and everything else, I like the SIG P320. It's a great gun. I just, what am I gonna do with my Glocks now? Just to have one, that's cool, but yeah.
Yeah. Perforator 2000 wants to know what our thoughts are on using a silenced pistol for home defense.
Why not?
Yeah, sounds great to me. Believe me, I've got hearing damage. I don't want any more.
Yeah, if you got your tax stamp and everything, do it. Yeah, why not?
See, I think it should be freaking legal at the very least, if they're not going to make silencers legal just totally, which they should, because to me they're just gun politeners, noise pollution mufflers. So if they're not going to make them just legal totally, they should at least say you only need a tax stamp if you're going to take it out of your house. You should be able to use something like that in your house.
Yeah, if you're going to remove it from your property,
yeah,
then you have to get a tax stamp for it. Why not? That'd be perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is this a good time to talk about Montana and Arizona, where, although I don't think either one of them applies to that kind of stuff, or actually it may. They basically said, look, if it doesn't leave the state, then the NFA doesn't apply to it because the interstate commerce, clause can't attach to it. And we do have those facets that we fashioned ours after Montana, and I think a couple other states did too. Wyoming.
See, that's awesome, because I think it shouldn't be you got to pay a tax stamp to own it. It should be if you get caught taking it across state lines without a tax stamp, you're in trouble. That way you've done something wrong, so it's okay for you to get in trouble, even if I don't know if I should think that should actually be illegal or not. But at the very least, you should be able to buy it in your own state and just be entering into a contract with your state that this is legal here, but it's not legal there, so I'm not taking it there.
Right, and then basically the concept is if you're not an FFL, so you're not a licensed manufacturer from the country, a federal licensed manufacturer, then you make a thing and it stays in the state, then it never needed to be regulated, I guess, as long as there's these exemptions to it.
And this is an idea that's been around for a while. I mean, they've been talking about this for at least a decade now, about just if somebody makes a gun, like in Texas, there's companies here that have been pushing for this because, we make guns in Texas. We should be able to sell them without having to worry about, going through an FFL or anything else. Just you buy the gun here, we manufacture it here. Why does the federal government need to know about this? You're not, as long as you don't take it across state lines. There's a lot that's and full auto and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully more states will start to catch on and start to push for stuff like this.
It's all about state rights, and like I say, they're right. If it doesn't cross state lines, the federal government should have no say in it. If it's not something that's already granted them power, the federal government's only job, in my opinion, is to protect the country from foreign and domestic threats and to enforce the rules of the Constitution. To tell states, hey, you can't make laws that remove people's guaranteed rights or their civil rights, but they don't need to make laws of their own. I don't agree with it. So that's my activist moment for the evening. Now that transgenders, someone wants to know what do we think about a duty belt tutu now that transgender people are allowed in the military. I don't think most transgender people wear a tutu, but I mean, if you want one, knock yourself out. What I would like to have is a tacti kilt. I so badly want a tacti kilt.
With Molly all over it.
Well, no, just a tacti kilt. That's got places for extra magazines, and that big fuzzy thing they put in the front to keep it from blowing up and showing your balls to everybody. That's the perfect place to keep a gun. So tacti kilts. So that's the way to go, people. Just make it acceptable to wear shirts.
There's got to be multiple places making that. I've seen so many of those already.
I mean, I'd wear one. I'll wear underwear with it. I hate to break it to people because I got a hairy ass, so I don't want sweat issues, but I would definitely wear one if it became socially acceptable to do so.
Dude, you should make a video about it. I'm sure a bunch of the makers would send you.
I should. I just might now. I might tell someone I want a tacti kilt. I did have a meeting with let's just say a gun industry bigwig today, and we had some interesting conversations. But going back to what G-Webs was saying earlier about the YouTubes taking over the place of media, and we were talking about that. It's like they can't get as many views for a 2 o'clock in the morning commercial, which is about all you can afford nowadays on local media, as we can get putting a video on YouTube.
Yeah, so directly to an audience, to an interested audience, not just a bunch of people who are insomniacs or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And people can't put into their DVR, I want to see a commercial about this product, and it pops up. On YouTube, that's basically what you're doing all day long. Is I want to see a commercial about the Beretta High, the Browning High Power. And bam, there's a video, a review of the Browning High Power, which I've had to do a lot the last couple of days. Got this one in order. I got to change the hammer out in the next day or so.
I thought you did that earlier today.
No, I'm going to change the hammer later. I took the magazine disconnect out of it. And a lot of people are getting on me about, why would you take the magazine disconnect out now? You can't carry it. I'll still carry it. I've always said, if you do modifications to your gun, be aware of the risks. I'm aware of the risks, and I'm willing to take it to have a better trigger.
The concept of being able to enunciate or to explain why you made the decision, not that you just made a rash decision.
I don't want to have a shitty trigger, and I don't want my gun to not fire if my magazine accidentally pops out in the struggle. And it would present a really big issue if, like tonight, I took my magazine out and I shot my neighbor accidentally with my magazine out and one in the chamber. Well, that would be a big issue. That would put me definitely liable, but it would push me to the criminal side of liability. Whereas if it was in there and I did that, it would be a different story. But so I did open myself up for steeper prosecution if I have an accident, but I'm willing to risk that I don't have an accident.
How much more liable would you be if you shot somebody with a Glock that doesn't have a magazine disconnect, as opposed to that?
If you didn't alter the gun, you can still say accident. But if you altered the gun, they can say, it wasn't an accident. It was because you did something stupid.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's where you run the biggest risk in situations like this. And G-Web's just pointing out that we hit the hour mark. So we're the next chat. I'll try to keep some of these questions, and then probably ask some more questions for next time. And we'll have another question and answer one, because I like doing the question and answer ones where we're kind of interacting with the people. But
good idea, because I know you get a bunch of them, and then that way, it's not like we're on one topic for so long that it dominates.
Yeah, and I want to answer this one again real quick because I've gotten it like 5 times on this video. People saying, why aren't you guys on Full 30? Full 30 is invitation only. So if you want to know why anybody's not on Full 30, and I'm not just saying me, I'm saying any gun channel you like. If you want to know why they're not on Full 30, ask Full 30. Don't ask them, because that means they probably haven't been invited. But now that we're hit the hour mark, G-Web's, G-Web's, about your tour thing you're doing. Do you have any information on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks. It's only got about, 10 days left, so I guess anybody that's interested in the kind of stuff we're doing online, we're trying to get out there and focus on gun shops, unique shops, and interesting gun shops out and around. So we're raising money to put gas in the tank of our van so we can get out and do that.
Could you shoot me a link to that in my email and possibly put one in our chat section over here?
Sure.
Not in the private one, in the one that people can actually see over here on YouTube.
Yeah, I will. Thanks again. I forget to plug that thing, and it's gone over a month now, and I've got a bunch of projects out there, so I keep forgetting about it. But yeah, at this point, the van's all ready to go, and these funds all go into the tank.
It's basically like chipping in $5 or $10 for gas on a trip that you don't have to actually sit in a stinky ass car with a bunch of people on, but you still get to see all the cool moments condensed into like 20 minutes of video instead of putting up with all the sleeping in shitty hotels and hanging out in a stinky car and stopping at rest stops to go to the bathroom and possibly getting molested. So it's a good thing.
I'll do all those things for you, minus the last one maybe. So, but yeah, we do the daily show. Bob and I, a guy from Canada, do a show every weekday, and we've been doing it long enough now that we've got the rhythm down, so we can do it. Now we did a couple of introductory little branches of the tour into New Mexico, up to Vegas, and getting ready now to go a little bit further. We're definitely going to the Gun Rights Policy Conference out in Florida later this year, but ideally we'll do some other loops around the country as well, and feature those gun shops and those people's collections and things at gun shows and stuff during our daily show and on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I want to thank everyone that showed up tonight, because we've been sitting at over 600 viewers pretty much the whole night tonight. So we got quite a good audience built up tonight. So I want to thank all the people that actually showed up.
And what's neat is that it's not the hype. It's not a bunch of people who are reacting. Because Matt and I think Matt noticed it too, that we had our spikes, after that weekend, and then people, they get less concerned and they're gone. So it's great that you've got an audience that sticks with you and is interested in not just like fair weather.
Yeah, it's just not flavor of the week kind of a thing, the topic of the week. I do want to.
Stuff to talk about, because like I say, the chat was almost, they weren't able to keep up with the amount of chats that are going through on the YouTube side. Gun channels were flipping too.
Oh yeah. And I want to address some people here that are asking when will they see a video on me shooting my gatekeeper. As soon as I get to the point where I can do it without actively crying, I will actually get some video of me shooting that gun. But it is very fun. It's not as bad as you would think it is, and it's a lot of fun. It's like having a little magic wand that blows things up if you learn to aim it, so it's pretty cool.
Now, have you shot things like that without a stock at all?
I've shot like the little Serbu thingies or whatever they're called.
Okay, yeah. So
I didn't like that thing at all, but I like this a lot better.
Okay. Yeah, the recoil's not as bad as people would think, I think, or people assume it's going to be.
If you shoot like different loads out of it, it's better than if you shoot slugs. Slugs are a little abusive out of those things, but I'm enjoying it. So, has anybody got anything they want to plug real quick here before we get out of here? Because we have gone well over our hour.
I want to plug Yankee. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about the tour. But yeah, Yankee's been doing this stuff, and I know that you've got the Patreon thing going, and you just did your thing for your cousin.
Yeah, I want to update people. They actually got their money this weekend. It was taking a while for them to get the money because they didn't have a bank account, so Indiegogo wouldn't close the funding until they actually had a bank account to put it into. So they actually did get their money this weekend, but the bad thing is my cousin got put on a life support system 2 days ago, and he still isn't off of it. So we'll see how he turns out, but at the very least, his wife got enough money because they were afraid of being kicked out of the home they rent. They got enough money to pay their rent for a year and still have a couple of $1,000s left over. So that really helped them out a lot. That she knows that no matter what, she's not going to have to lose her home with her 3 kids with her, even as she's losing her husband, which happens to too many people. So I want to thank everyone that donated. So my sister will be sending out the patches probably either this weekend or as soon as the holiday's over on Monday. So be looking for those starting the end of next weekend. So that's what I wanted to do, the update on that. And then I'm going to switch over to my other headphones here. So y'all talk amongst yourself while I do the ending.
You know, people keep asking about Stone Guy. Should we just finally admit that he wanted too much money and Yankee had him put down?
Yeah, we should. I mean, as far as plugs go, you know, I'm not going to say that, you know, unlike G-Webs, that I want to plug Yankee.
I tried to slip that in there.
Well, that's part of plugging Yankee, apparently, is to slip it in there. So, but yeah, go check out gunchannels.com. It's a great place. So you can go hang out and get in on some of the podcasts yourself. Which is
on that note, I think we'll get out of here. Nobody's plugging me.
I am a grown-ass man.